column to go into, I would love going into the village, taking the Long Island Railroad into Greenwich Village. I just loved being in the village. It was so like strange and wonderful and bizarre, you know. It was like, it was just like fascinating for a kid, especially around that time when the whole beatnik thing was sort of ending. And I would walk down McDougal Street and just, you know, go around the village and smell the scent of espresso and cappuccino and Gauloise and, you know, filterless cigarettes and stuff like that. And it was just another world, especially, you know, being that the next morning I usually had to go back to this awful existence at high school. I won't say what it is because I've actually been invited to reunions. You know, I'm afraid to go. Ever since my book came out, I'm afraid to go to a reunion. I think they're waiting for me to just come. So there I was in the village, and I especially, you know, the center of the town was of the village was 3 stores. Well, by the way, you could walk around, and when I talk about the sense of coffee and stuff like that, there were these wonderful beatnik cafes, the Cafe Figaro, the Fatback Pussycat, the Cafe Bazaar, and every now and then you could hear beatniks reading poetry, you know, from as you walk by. It was just thrilling for a kid. On McDougal Street, there was a cluster of 3 shops, stores, whatever you want to call it. On the above, when you walked up, there was a place called the Folklore Center, run by Israel Young, and the Folklore Center was where all these people hung out, like Dylan and Phil Oakes, and there was a magazine that was being published called Broadside, and there were also albums that went along with it. In fact, Dylan's first recording, he called himself Blind Boy Grunt. It was very political, and I rented a guitar. I wanted to become like a folk musician, mainly because I would go down to, and this is the second of the 3 shops, was the Gaslight Cafe, which was downstairs. And the Gaslight was where I hung out, you know, as late as I could, you know, before the last train to Long Island. And I would just sit there and drink my cappuccino and listen to, especially Hootenanny nights. I would listen to Tom Paxton, Ramblin' Jack Elliott, and Noel Stukey, who later became Paul and Mary. And it was just incredible. It was music that I had never heard before. It wasn't the Kingston Trio type of folk music. It was something that was based on real roots music. People were doing real country blues. But the person that really influenced me the most was the MC, who was this very big guy who was like an old socialist and a grump. And it was like hard. You knew you didn't want to talk to him because you knew he was going to yell at you or something, right? As old as he was 27. Dave Van Ronk might as well have been 80, you know, just like that. But I loved the way he played. I loved the way he sang. Dave died around, I guess it's been 10 years now. And I went up to him and I probably said Mr. Van Ronk, you know, which probably had him laughing his sides off. And I said, do you give lessons? And he said, yes, I do. So I would go up to Dave and Terry's apartment up on West 15th Street. And sometimes Bob Dylan would be sleeping on the couch or, you know, having breakfast because Dave's wife, Terry Thal, managed Dylan at the time. But you know, you hear all of these stories, and I'm convinced that Bob Dylan has slept on every couch in Greenwich Village. And